Happily. Social democracy is essentially the Nordic model, or some people like to call it cuddly capitalism. And in many ways, it is exactly what a lot of people who label themselves socialists, particularly in the United States, actually want. Part of my journey from being an outright Stalinist all the way to a centrist, in between, I went for a social democrat phase. So I would actually argue that social democracy is very much just left-wing liberalism. The difference between this and socialism is it is fundamentally democratic. You have a slightly larger state with more public services and presumably some nationalisations. And in order to pay for these public services, you end up with high taxes. That's something, as I've got older, I'm not as much of a fan of, but at the same time, I could live with it. Like in the Scandinavian countries, you also have a much larger welfare state, hence the term cuddly capitalism. And I cannot stress this point enough. And you know who you are. The Scandinavian countries are not socialist. I make the point about cuddly capitalism because they are still fundamentally free market capitalist countries. They just have a much larger welfare state. And don't take my word for it, Bernie Sanders. That is the leaders and ex-leaders who are saying it. I know that some people in the US associate the Nordic model with some sort of socialism. Therefore, I'd like to make one thing clear. Denmark is far from a socialist planned economy. Denmark is a market economy. It has an expanded welfare state which provides a high level of security to its citizens, but it's also a successful market economy with as much freedom to pursue your dreams and live your life as you wish. Which sounds much more like a liberal, cuddly capitalist country to me. It does also help they have access to large amounts of natural resources, particularly Norway with oil. Despite having such massive welfare safety nets, not many people actually use them over there. They also have very low populations. This is another thing the American left need to be aware of. They're not very big on having unlimited numbers of people coming into the country every year either. Those countries are very strict. Well, apart from Sweden, but still. The welfare state over in Scandinavia is more there to help people who don't earn that much, just get a little bit more so that they can keep going. And they are very, very strict on who they give it to. Naturally, because the taxes are so high. They need to make sure that the people's money isn't going to waste. Which is kind of based when you think about it. Maybe Boris Johnson and Joe Biden can learn some lessons. And something I learned more recently from one of my ex-partners who is in fact Norwegian. Because a popular American talking point is upping the minimum wage. Well, in these social democracies, there is no minimum wage. Wages are negotiated by the employer and the employee. And sometimes the employee's trade union. That's another thing I should mention. A lot of the unions over there are not as ideologically corrupt as some of the unions in Britain and America, or have been infiltrated by communists. But overall, it's a good idea. It's a very good system, it works, and well, the quality of life is very high and people are happy.